aspects of the play and still open it up a little bit?
You know, I'm from the plains outside of Denver, Colorado. And one of the things that happens is that you're in home. We found this beautiful home we purchased in Osage County in Oklahoma. One of the things that happens is there's actually, it's quite claustrophobic to be out in these small homes in the middle of these vast landscapes. And so what we're trying to do is to give that same sense of having this very claustrophobic place where everyone is stuck and a long ways away from everything else, and try and do that to match the necessary sort of claustrophobia of the home. So we spent a lot of time talking about that, actually.
Yeah, Tracy, in talking to John about how you're going to adapt this play, it's obviously a 3-act play and it has to be squeezed a little bit. Do you look at scenes? Do you look at favorite dialogue? Do you look at overall thematic arcs in terms of trying to compress the play down into screenplay form? What are the conversations you have about what stays and what goes?
We try not to begin the conversation with just talking about what can we lose, what can we cut. We try to begin a more general conversation about how can we tell the story with pictures. Where will pictures substitute for words without losing so many of the things that made Osage County to begin with. So much of the language and a lot of the humor. So we just try to find a visual language, a visual flow and dynamism to the piece, a cinematic version of the story. And then eventually you get to the point where you are doing some painful cutting, losing some material that I was loath to lose, but that's the process.
Were there specific scenes that you clung on to until the very end, or scenes that were shot that didn't make the finished film?
Sure, yeah. There always are. I think in any film, those are some of the painful decisions you're making when you let it out and you edit. So yeah, there were specific things that I hated to lose, but the truth is that the play exists as the play and always will, and the movie is its own very distinct, self-contained animal, I think successful in that regard.
I have a question for Chris. Chris, we know what it's like to watch Meryl act. As an actor, what is it like to watch Meryl act? And what are those, especially the big kind of showy scenes when you're in a room with an actor like Meryl Streep? How is it for other actors to work?
He's the only one I've done the nude scene with. So far.
And she's a master at it all. But I mean that sincerely. We do our best to act along with her, but I keep having this fantasy of, but this is the setting where you talk about the whole process, and I thought in terms of like a Charlie Rose or whatever, where you talk about acting and feel like you can open up about it. To say that the viewer that watches her work really still has no idea the talent that we observe per take, because she brings such variety. With this character, say at the dinner table scene, she'll bring, of course, her drug-addled side, but there's also the I can give a shit about what's going on, at this dinner table. Or she'll bring the mean underbelly and the confrontation, and she'll just mix it up, and we never know what's coming at us, and that keeps us on our toes. So it's a great lesson. This is the second time I've worked with her, and I'm still learning.
Juliette. Julia, the Weston sisters, I assumed before a family can become dysfunctional, they have to become functional. And in the case of this movie, in the weeks leading up to filming, is there anything that you guys could do as actors to kind of prepare for this movie in terms of the relationships that are either not really delineated in the play, or the relationships that you want to play at in the movie before you actually start production?
Specifically with my sisters?
Correct.
Do you mind that?
Yes, those.
Well, your name had to start with a J-U-L, a Weston sister. We spent a lot of time together and getting to know each other, and we didn't know each other at all when it started, and by the time we began filming, I felt very familiar and entangled with these girls in a way that seemed correct for sisters, and had made just enough happy experiences with them, and had a couple of appropriate sisterly, like, really, that's what you're wearing kind of moments where I felt like it was all gonna fall into place.
Did you guys have a chance, I mean, I think I've heard stories about where you all were living. Margo, maybe you could talk about this. Did you have some sort of compound out on the plains before filming started?
Yes, Ms. Streep had it built. It's beautiful. We lived in townhouses, all hooked together, and we did a lot of socializing together. We actually became a family together. We watched television together, cooked together, ate together, laughed, worried about Hurricane Sandy together. It was an incredible experience that really made for the perfect environment for this ensemble of actors to do this beautiful screenplay.
Did you make the casserole?
I made the chicken spaghetti casserole.
You did not try.
I actually left John Webb in the refrigerator and all that.
Julianne, I want to talk a little bit about the language of the film. There's an inherent theatricality to any play, and there's an inherent melodrama almost to what Tracy has written. When you're going from stage to screen, is there a different kind of style of acting you do? Because the language is so specific, and in your conversations with John about how this language is going to work, what are the conversations that you have with your director?
First of all, I would like to say that I feel like I have the opportunity right now to either win or lose a large sum of money. I'm nervous.
What was the bet?
I'd rather talk about where we lived, but I won't talk about the language. I do approach it differently. I mean, I think you probably do, but really, I mean, just in terms of in a theater, you have to fill the space in a different way, but I think approaching it, you just want to honor the words that are there and be as honest and in this case, as present as you can be to the people who are around you, which just ups, in this case, just ups your game tremendously. And Tracy's writing is very particular and so beautiful, and actually has quite a rhythm to it. So there was no improvising, because you didn't want to mess with that rhythm, and it feels and sounds very naturalistic, but it's quite precise and exciting to be given. There's a lot of freedom actually when you know you can't stray from the lines. So it was a thrill to be able to do that.
Meryl, there's so many different ways you could read Violet about is she damaged, is she spiteful, is she confused, is she insecure? I'm curious, do you kind of decide pretty early on what her motivations are? Do you have conversations with John and Tracy? Because it's a character that can be played so many different ways in so many different directions.
Well, John and I emailed a little bit in preparation for this, and I would say my biggest, one of the things that really interested me was where she was at any given point in the cycle of pain and pain relief. Where she was on her painkiller cycle, in any given scene. And since we were shooting out of order, I sort of had to map that in a way, just so I know what level of attention or inattention I could bring to my fellow actors. And that was because I think you, as an actor, you're supposed to want to go into the house of pain over and over and over again. But